I'm talking to myself. Hi, everybody. I'm on just a little bit early. We can see the countdown, and I just find it's easier because that way people get notice that I'm online and we get more people there at the beginning. Let me... Hi, Laura. Perfect. That's exactly what I was looking for, was my overlays. How can I not find these comments? There they are. Happy Monday to everyone. If you are in the special educator group, later tonight I'm posting a question that I want your feedback on. Tonight I want to talk about how we survive and thrive to the end of the year. So when you come in, drop me a note, let me know that you're here, and also let me know how many Mondays do you have left with kids. So how soon are you going to be out of school? I know one of the districts that I work with a lot is going to be out in, I think, a week and a half. I keep moving myself into my overlay. Who all is here today? We got a few more minutes before we get started while we let everybody come in, but drop me a note and let me know that you're here. I would love to know who's on with us. Laura says only one more day. Only one more Monday since today is over. 9 more days of school. Alyssa has 2 more Mondays. Hi, Marianne. I'm glad you're here. 11 days left with your kids. Awesome, Melanie. So I must have the southern crowd with us today because I think the northern group often gets out earlier. I'm not sure what LMMM is, Laura. So we're 6.5 days for Marianne. Wow, you're coming up on it fast. Hi, Michelle. I'm glad you're here. We got a couple of minutes before we're really going to get started. I've got some tips on how to make it through those last few weeks of school because I know that it's really, really tough. We're all exhausted. The kids are exhausted. The parents are exhausted. You're exhausted. And, of course, we have to throw out all of the schedules and everything. If you're teaching secondary, you've got exams. If you've got younger kids, you've got field day and crazy days. And it's really hard for a lot of our students to manage that, just to manage the chaos that goes on at the end of the year. So if you just come in, drop me a line, let me know that you're here. How many Mondays do you have left? Sarah, I hope that's not 19 Mondays. I hope that's 19 days. 19 Mondays would be a lot of Mondays, unless you're teaching year-round school. Right, and I know a lot of you have events that come up and programs and all those kinds of things, which just are exhausting. So it's just like, let's just drain the last minute of strength that you had left in your life from you before you leave school. Hi, Hannah. Rosalyn's got 1. Sarah has 19 days. Good, not 19 Mondays. That's a good thing. Misty has 1 Monday left. So we've crossed off 1 Monday. Many of you only have 1 more to go. Time flies when you're cleaning your house and trying to move. 2 Mondays for Veronica. Awesome. I'm so glad you guys are here. So I think, one of the things that makes it really hard is we're all just done. Kids are done. Everybody's done. But also we're really struggling with the fact that the schedule is off and everybody it's just kind of like everything just kind of floats away at the end of the year. And so I want to share some ideas of ways to help you make it to the end of the year successfully and give you permission to kind of do some different things at the end of the year, because I know that it's really hard. Jackie's got 3 more Mondays, but only because of Memorial Day, so she's really got 4 more Mondays. Whoa, that's a lot of Mondays. Okay, so I'm going to make this go away, and away, and away. Good. All right. So I have 5 things that you can do that can help you, and I apologize, I've got really bad light tonight. I've got a thunderstorm raging outside. I've got nothing, someday I'm going to come on and I'm going to go, everything is great, but not this week. So I'm Dr. Kristin Reeve. For anybody who doesn't know me, I run Autism Classroom Resources, and I've got 5 ways that you can use, that you can do to help your special ed classroom make it to the end of the year successfully. And so my first one is using more visuals. And I want to give you kind of some idea that many of you are at a point this year where maybe you faded visuals out and you're thinking, I don't want to go back to them, that's backtracking. But if you think about it, if you are really stressed, chances are pretty good you write more notes to yourself. Like I've got one house in renovation, I've got one house I'm trying to pack up to move, I've got a job and everything else going on. I'm writing a lot of notes because I'm really stressed. So I'm finding that I'm writing things down so that I don't forget them. So I'm using more visual cues. When times are stressful, when they are unpredictable, you're going to need more visuals. I'm going to share my screen really quickly. Maybe. There we go. And you're going to say my crazy. Sorry, I didn't get this started because I was looking for something when I started. Okay, so you might use more visual schedules. So a student who up to this point has been able to manage without a daily schedule, you may have to go back to it. That's okay. And that's for students with autism, but it's also for students without autism. You may need to go back to some format of a visual schedule for the day because the days are different, the routines are different, there's different stuff going on. You may also really want to make sure that everybody in your classroom is pulling out their visual cueing necklaces so that we've got them on hand in all the different places that we're going to. Because remember that our students need visuals more when they leave the classroom than they do in our classroom. So in our world where we can make things more predictable, we don't need as many visuals. But in the outside world, when they leave the classroom, they need more. So if you're, I know that many of you already get this, and I'm probably preaching to the choir, but if you want to show your paras or your teacher, if you're a para, this video and have me say it, feel free. We need to pull out more visuals when things are stressful because we all use more visuals when we're stressed. We write things down more. We take more notes. We might need a mini schedule where we haven't had a mini schedule before. So we may find that this morning routine with everybody being so crazy is really hard. So we may pull our morning routine schedules back out again. We may need to break down tasks that we didn't used to have to break down for a student and give him more visuals. It might just be writing a note. So it may not have to be pictures. You may be able to use written schedules. You may need more contingency maps. So, if I raise my hand, I want to ask the teacher a question. If I raise my hand, I can ask for a break. I get the computer. If I don't raise my hand and I run away, I'm not going to get the computer. So we may just need more ways to show students in this situation, these are the expectations. This is what you need to remember to do. Maybe your student knows how to do all this, but they still may need a visual to help them remember. We may also want to use social stories. So I have a summer social story that I will work very hard in the next couple days to get updated and put back on the blog. So stay tuned on the page. I'll post when it's ready. I update it with the calendar. You can download it now. The calendar is just out of date. This is actually one from winter break, but it's just a printable mini activity that the students can do talking about when they're going to get out of school so that they can see it on a calendar. So pull out the calendar, write a social story. You may need to write a social story about field day, or write a social story about the end of the year program, or write a social story about graduation. My friend Sue Cabot just asked me the other day if I had a social story for college graduation, because her first college students at the university graduated this year. And he did really well, but she said it occurred to me that we really need a graduation story because it might not have gone so well. So you may need to write social stories. I write them on the fly. I write them on whiteboards and take a picture of them so that I have them later. I write them on a Post-it note. I once wrote a social story on the back of an envelope. I wrote a social story on the back of a pizza box last week because they had a carnival and things were a little crazy and my kid thought he was going to get to go home. So I had to give him a social story about first you're going to do this and then we're going to do this and we're going to ask for a break if we need it, just to remind him what the expectations are. So I'll put my summer social story updated in the next couple days. Okay, so I'm going to come back to you guys. In addition to those things, hi, Marianne. Hi, Emma. Emma's got 2 more Mondays. Marianne, how many Mondays do you have left? If you're here, tell me how many Mondays you've got left. So that's 2 things. So you may need more visuals and you may need social stories. So there's 2 of the 5. Another is that you may need to back off on some of your demands. So things are going to be harder to get done because everybody is so focused on other things. And if we're stressing our kids out with new activities, with an uncertain schedule, with those kinds of things, we may need to back down a little bit on the rigor of what we're asking them to do. Trust me, the general ed teachers are doing that with their kids too. It's not just our kids. Everybody's doing that. So we may have to back off the difficulty of what we're asking them to do. We may need to mix more maintenance things into their routine. We may need to center some things around more engaging activities, whereas normally we could just do them as kind of run of the mill. So this is not the time of year where we're going to present a lot of new material, but we may need to go back over some old ground, and that's okay. It does not mean that your student is regressing. It does not mean that you are not doing a good job. It means that this time of year is cray-cray, and we're all just trying to get to the end of the year. So we may, at that point, need to lessen our demands on our students. Conversely, the 4th thing, I think I'm on 4, is that we may need to increase our reinforcement. So we may need to break those token boards out or break that point system out that we haven't used before. And again, we either have to increase the motivation or decrease the difficulty. That's the way to get a student to complete something when they are stressed out by everything else. So again, if you're really stressed out, you fall back and do easier things. You don't ask as much of yourself if you're going through a family crisis, if you're just trying to make it to the end of the year, if your schedule has gone confluy. Those are all things that cause us to say, you know what, I'm not going to do that tonight. I'm going to just sit back and chill. So make sure that you think about how have you increased the reinforcement value of something or decreased the complexity of it so that you can get kids engaged. Our focus needs to be on trying to keep our students engaged. So if we need to add easier things in, that's okay. That doesn't mean you're a bad teacher. That doesn't mean you're not doing your job. It means you're adjusting to the circumstances. And trust me again, our students our regular ed teachers are doing it too. So Martha says, you definitely, trying to put this here, it's not working. You definitely have to back off demands and increase the reinforcers. Things are just too hard when things are crazy and we can't predict. And that's number 5. Number 5 is that we need to think about trying to keep our schedule as consistent as possible for our students. Sometimes it seems like, well, we had a carnival today, so the whole day is shot. Sometimes it's better to come back, have a pizza, do a little bit of relaxing, and then get back on track. And I know it's really easy because the carnival wore you out to kind of go, okay. But the thing is, if we're not going back into our regular routine, then we're going to run into problems because then we're going to be fighting getting through the day. I was in a classroom last week they'd had a carnival in the morning. And so the idea was they'd come back to the afternoon, they'd kind of hang out, they might clean up from the carnival. But there was no real, we've got a schedule. And for a number of my students, that meant, okay, now's the time I fall apart because it must be time to go home. Why aren't I going home? And very smart kids, they knew, what the schedule was, but without the schedule to base it on, they're like, what do I do? So they're like, well, my mother's going to come pick me up early. Well, she's not. And that's going to be a problem. So we had to pull up a social story. We had to kind of regroup. And so then we wrote down the schedule. And we needed to put the schedule back in place. A very famous person once said, downtime is not your friend. I have to put that up here because that's just so funny. I'm actually not the very famous person who said that in the first place. That was actually my friend Stacy Puff, who was a consultant who worked with me. And she used it in a training, and I went, that is so perfect. Downtime is not your friend. It's not the friend of our students. It's not your friend. And by keeping your students more engaged, you're actually making your life easier. By putting that schedule back in place, we're really going to run into more problems down the line. So you're better off coming back from the carnival and having a schedule to fall into. So don't just think that you've lost the day, you're going to let it go, because that's when your kids are going to have a ton of problems. So try to maintain your schedule as much as you possibly can. And Martha says, idle hands are no bueno. Absolutely. Downtime does not work, as Kristin says in our pre-K structured teaching class. Absolutely not. These are not students. If these were students who could handle downtime, they'd be in general ed more because they'd be able to handle it. Because general ed has a lot more downtime. There's waiting. It's not called downtime. It's called waiting. Waiting for the other kids to have a turn. Listening to the other kids. Waiting to go to the bathroom until it's your turn. All those kinds of things are things that are really tough for our kids to handle. It's one of the reasons that they are in more time in special ed. So we want to really think about that. Downtime does not work in pre-K. It does not work in a lot of places. I love this comment. Martha says, I love when my students go get schedule cards on their own to get you back on track. I love it when the kids do that because it means that they understand and it means that they're asking for what they need. That is super awesome. I love that. So those are my 5 things. Use more visuals. What were my 5 things? See, I can't remember. I have to have them written down. Use more visuals. Use social stories. Increase your reinforcement. Decrease the difficulty of your tasks. Better to do easy tasks and go through the schedule than to try to do hard tasks and have it fall apart. So all of your decisions always have to be based on student engagement. And then 5, try to keep to your schedule as best as you can in the craziness of the end of the year. Those are my 5 things. Questions you guys have? How is everybody feeling about the end of the year? I saw some people had come in, and I saw somebody had a lot of Mondays. Melissa's got 2. Marion's got 1. Carrie's got 1 with students. Robin's got 3. Kristin was the one I'd seen. Kristin has 6 Mondays. Let's all have a moment of silence for Kristin. And then we'll follow that with Kristin. When do you go back to school? Martha says she had 3 ARD meetings. For those of you that are not conversant in Texas, in Texan, that means that she had 3 IUP meetings today and a new student who starts tomorrow. Oh, I love that. I just love it when you get new kids right before the end of school. Wow, Kristin goes back at the end of July. You have a long school year. Oh, you're year-round. Okay, guys, so here's the reason. Kudos to you, Martha, for making it through the day. Here's the reason that Kristin has so many more Mondays. She's on year-round. So she tracks in and out. That's awesome. I love year-round. And I know a lot of teachers do as well. And I know sometimes it's so much easier for our students. Rosalyn is done with her ARDs. Again, translating Texan, done with her IEPs. Awesome. Little guy just turned 3. Gotta love preschool. They just come whenever they're ready. Doesn't matter what time of year it is, they gotta start. Love preschool. Martha says she has 8 days left. Emma has prom, science fair, and summer school planning in one day. Yay! Well, at least you get it all out of the way in one day, and you can try to keep on track for the rest. 9 weeks in, 3 weeks out. I would like that. That would be my schedule. I would like that a lot. Specials are a nightmare for one of your students. Look at ways that you can increase the number of visual supports for that, because I think that's really, really important, Hannah. And I will try to remember to come back. I actually have a couple posts on specials. I will come back and add that in the comments. But the same kinds of things. Increase your visuals, increase your reinforcement, and decrease your expectations of the student in that activity. So maybe he's doing a much easier task than he would be capable of in your classroom when he's in the art or the music room. It's kind of the long and short. And I will come back and link, reply to your comments with those posts, which have some ideas. Okay. Carrie. How do we prepare a kiddo for middle school when we don't know where they're going to be going? Well, that is an interesting question. I would say you just have general discussions about middle school, and then you look at how you're going to introduce him to the middle school before school starts. So will he have an opportunity to come into the building and see it and meet his teachers and things like that? That's where I would put my focus. So I would talk to the student about, you're going to go to a different school, you're going to go to middle school, and middle school you're going to change classes. So what are some common things that your middle school does? Focus on those things now, and then figure out how, once you know who it is, will you be able to work with them to transfer information and also to have them come in early and get to know the teacher, because that's a tough one. Kids who are moving, it's a really tough one too. Some of that's going to have to be taken on by the place that he's going. Oh, 2 TAs down and lots of subs. That is not fun, Kristin. That is actually the post I put up yesterday, was actually on the one-man down plan and how do we get through when we're missing staff. Laura. Had a class of all boys who do not get along. Thought only girls had that problem. No, they do. I plan this week to do independent work followed by something on the computer while you finish up benchmarks, PBS Kids, Bobby Max Math, and for the last time of the day, their choice. But they bicker constantly, they touch each other, and they carry on so horribly that you don't want to let them have their fun. You really just, you know what? I would divide them up. So here's what I would do. I would divide them up, not put them in the same group so that they're not together, if you can possibly do that. Because, I can't make this smaller. Because you want it, they're just done with each other. They're like brothers. You know, I've had kids that are like brothers and sisters. It's like, I love you, I love you, I love you, I hate you. I love you, I hate you. I love you, I hate you. And all you can do at that point is really separate them. Is try to keep them apart from each other and recognize that they're driving each other crazy. Yes, Veronica says, we will survive this year. Marianne says she'd like to do 9 weeks, 3 weeks. Don't either. I've had mine do that frequently. Marianne is having problems with autocorrect. Yeah, I think a lot of our kids would do better with year-round school a lot of times. Okay, let's see. Kellyanne says she has 3 boys that are constantly bickering and they have to separate them. I don't know of another great solution. Try a social story that kind of talks about how we have to be nice to our friends, that kind of thing. You might even try a social story of, sometimes you get tired of being with the same person. That's okay. But we still have to be kind to those people. Or pull out the kind social story that's free in my store. That's another option, just to remind them. And that bickering is not kind. Do I have any post tips for teaching students how to wait? That is so funny. That is actually the post for next week. Oh no, next week is how to learn to handle asking for something that you can't have, but waiting actually comes up with that. I do have a post. Here's kind of the way that I teach it. I give the student a waiting visual so that they know that they're not going to be forgotten. I avoid saying later because that usually means never in their world. And I say, you need to wait. I give them a visual so they know I'm going to take it back when their waiting time is up. And then we start with waiting for 30 seconds. And once we can do 30 seconds, we wait for a minute. And once we can wait for a minute, we wait for 2 minutes and then 5 minutes. And gradually we increase how much time they wait and we reinforce them for waiting. I think I do have a post on that somewhere having to do with, actually I have a set of social stories and I talk about it in a post and then I'll find that and come back for it. Come back and give it to you. Laura says, it's a class of 9 boys, none of whom can be with each other. And you're not kidding. When I have 4 centers, it was easier to split them up, but with only 2, it's rough. Yeah, I think I probably would add at least another center. And see about having them be separated from each other during that center. No problem, Sarah. All right, other questions? Any I missed? You can get through this. All right. You guys can get through this. You will make it to the end. For those of you who look for ways for professional development over the summer, the Academy will be open. A couple things to think about. You may want to join my mailing list. In the next few weeks, I'll be doing some promotions. There probably won't be decreases in the price of the Academy, but I am going to offer some trials through my mailing list. So if you want to try the Academy and see if it's for you, please subscribe to my newsletter, and in a couple weeks that will be available. Or make sure that you join us in our free Facebook group at specialeducatorsconnection.com. Specialeducatorsconnection.com, and I apologize for all the capitals. I was doing something earlier that required capitals. Specialeducatorsconnection.com will take you to our free Facebook group if you're not already part of it. Please come join us there. We would love to have your feedback. We would love to have your input, and I will be sharing some promotions there as well. I will also be doing a video in the near future about what the Special Educator Academy is and what it involves. My goal in the Special Educator Academy is to help teachers become confident in their skills and continue to learn and adapt them to the situations that they're in. So I will share some more information about that in a future video. All right, everybody go have a good evening. Go take some relaxation time. Make it to the end of the year. And I will see you online. Bye, everybody.